perhaps give a brief explanation of your view of the purpose of this interview conducted at this sacred Sahaja site.
Thank you. My name's Chris Kyriacou. Probably more important and relevant to this interview is the time spent with Shri Mataji and the family and Sir CP. Here at Nirmal Dham in the presence of Shri Mataji, who's bearing witness to the things I'm about to say. I felt it was very important, having interviewed Jamil yesterday and him having a testament to the times around Sir CP and Shri Mataji, that first-hand accounts of Shri Mataji and particularly the time from 2003 are shared. One of the reasons for doing this is I've seen and read a lot of things in social media and Facebook and other forums about those times, expressing certain opinions, largely from people who spent no time with Shri Mataji and had no direct experience, and are relaying the opinions and views of other people who, again, were not in the direct experience of Shri Mataji. So I think for history's sake, those of us who have had first-hand accounts, I think should relay their own experiences. It's up to people that watch this video how they accept or not. My only suggestion is, as we yogis, just to check the vibrations. Don't believe anything I say, don't believe anything anyone tells you. Just believe what your vibrations tell you. And if my first-hand accounts help to provide a different perspective on some of the controversies that are spiralling in Sahaja Yoga, I hope this helps to clarify some of the things that have been said and done.
So, can you share your direct experiences with Shri Mataji about her vision for Sahaja Yoga and Sahaja Yogis?
It's a huge question, and to answer it will take probably more time than I have, but I think there are some very clear signals that Shri Mataji has given, not just in her talks and her puja talks, but in discussions with yogis, in leaders' meetings, world council meetings. So if I was to summarise some of the key areas that I feel are of a priority in Sahaja Yoga, the first would be always to support Shri Mataji's projects, always to support Shri Mataji's work, always to support the work of Sahaja Yoga. I think this has been a consistent message that Shri Mataji has given personally to various forums in her talks. That was the first thing. The second thing is very important, is that Shri Mataji never supported division in Sahaja Yoga. She never supported yogis leading the collective and criticising Sahaja Yoga, and for the main collective to entertain those views. She always had a view that those people that left the collective, for whatever reason that was, the issue was with them. They should clear out, and in the space of time, if they were better, they could come back into the collective. I think that principle is not followed today, and the boundaries around divisions and yogis leaving the collective are now interpreted in very different ways. The third thing is Shri Mataji never promoted or encouraged gossiping or the expression of opinions in Sahaja Yoga of one yogi against another yogi. She saw this as the work, as she would call, of murmuring souls, where negativity would enter into one yogi and would manifest as criticism and spread through gossiping to other yogis. And today, if you look in social media, so-called Sahaja social media and Facebook, you see a preponderance of yogis expressing opinions that are highly critical of other yogis, opinions that yogis would never express to each other in person, in the collective. And it appears that Sahaja Yoga has got to a position where we have the Maryadas and the protocols and our Sahaja culture within the collective, but within the social media world, there are no Maryadas, there are no protocols, there are no boundaries to what we would deem as behaviour that's conducive to the collective. And many of us feel that this trend in Sahaja Yoga is undermining our core values and our core principles. And if you look around the world, there are 6 billion people, there's all sorts of things happening inside, outside the world. Yet inside Sahaja Yoga, the left hand and the right hand are fighting, and largely through these forums. Why are Sahaja Yogis attacking one another? Why are Sahaja Yogis criticising one another? Why do Sahaja Yogis feel that their particular opinion about a particular issue is so important that they must go onto a Facebook page and slander one another? I find this a very dangerous trend. That's why I've got off Facebook. I used to have a Facebook account, I've deleted it because for me to take part in a forum where the Sahaj values and Maryadas are not followed will spread that negativity to me. And I think any yogi who wants to stand on Dharma, if the forum that you're involved in does not follow the Maryadas that you observe in your collective, you should also leave. Because all we're doing is we're encouraging these negative forces.
On that same line, there is so much Sahaja activity within social media and online forums between Sahaja Yogis, much not aligned with Sahaja Maryadas within the collectives. How should yogis deal with this? What would Shri Mataji feel about this?
To me, the answer is very simple. Shri Mataji has given us a very clear instructions on how we deal with problems. And that is we use our spiritual powers. If we see a problem, we write a letter, offer it to the altar, we shubit it, we pray, we surrender it to the feet of Shri Mataji. This is clear Sahaj protocol. Yogis trying to fix Sahaja Yoga through various political, through various forums, through argument, through groups, through lobbying, through emails. These are not spiritual means that Shri Mataji ever supported. Shri Mataji always supported the spiritual means. I was involved in some of the very early expressions of the internet. Myself and Phil Ward probably exchanged the first electronic communication between yogis using the internet. And so being involved in the very early forms of what you call now social media, I had some experiences of dealing with this issue with Shri Mataji. And on one particular occasion, we shared a puja talk that was given in Australia via email, and we shared some advice that Shri Mataji had given that was a little bit critical of a particular country. And then that country shared that email back to Shri Mataji and said that they were a little bit upset that this communication in the puja had been distributed this way. So Shri Mataji called me into a room and she said, I know this was said, and I know it was said in the puja, but by communicating it via email, you're putting it into the public space. And I do not support anything in the public space that's critical. It could be deemed to be critical of Sahaja Yogis or Sahaja Yoga, because it will blacken the face of Sahaja Yoga and blacken the face of God. So I got a very clear indication from Shri Mataji that these forums are used only for positive communication, and anything that could potentially be seen by other people that could undermine the credibility and reputation of Sahaja Yoga, I feel Shri Mataji would never be happy with. So if we look at where we are today and we ask ourselves, would Shri Mataji be pleased with what we're seeing today? I have a very strong view that she would not be. And the yogis need to take responsibility, good-hearted yogis, and the yogis who are too far gone down this path, we need to ignore what they're doing. The more we contribute to it, the more we're encouraging this.
Could you speak of your first encounters with Sir CP and your experiences of the relationship with Shri Mataji and with Sahaja Yoga?
One of the reasons that I really wanted to go on the public record was to speak a little bit about the relationship between Sir CP, Sahaja Yoga and Shri Mataji, because what I'm reading and seeing now on the internet is not the truth. Not the truth as I experienced it. And I spent a significant amount of time with Sir CP and Shri Mataji. So I think it's important for those who read these accounts of Sir CP that are promoted through certain political factions in Sahaja Yoga to at least be presented with the other side. I first met Sir CP in the 90s when he was organising his book launch. I was on an India tour. I was the most senior Australian yogi on the tour, and the book launch was something that Shri Mataji wanted support from different countries. So I was called to a meeting at the old temple with Shri Mataji and Sir CP, and we started talking about how we could do the book launch, both here in India and later during the Australian tour. So I started to meet with Sir CP, started to meet with Shri Mataji, discussing the book and the launch. And what I noticed from the start was that Shri Mataji had absolute support and interest in the things that Sir CP was doing. One couldn't say that it was a book, it was a private concern of Sir CP, and it wasn't anything to do with Sahaja Yoga. Shri Mataji was intimately involved in the meetings and the planning and the strategizing, and she gave full support to this venture. And so this is when we first started to meet. Sir CP came to Australia later the following year for a large tour. Again, we did a major book launch, which I was involved with and worked with Sir CP. And then after that tour, we were instrumental in arranging to find a house up in the northern beaches of Sydney, where Shri Mataji and Sir CP spent some vacation time. And during that time, we would go to the house every night, spend time with the family, with Sir CP, and just help them in that sort of very casual way to enjoy. And again, I saw that Shri Mataji observed very specific protocols around Sir CP and the interactions with the yogis. And anyone who spent time with Shri Mataji and Sir CP from the first days of Sahaja Yoga right through knows that Shri Mataji will not tolerate even the slightest indiscretion or lack of protocol or lack of respect shown to her husband. Even the slightest implication that there was some indifference or some lack of respect to Sir CP, Shri Mataji would not tolerate. So through that time, I started to become very friendly with Sir CP, and the relationship became even stronger during the two major tours of Australia in 2006 and 2007, when Shri Mataji and Sir CP spent significant amounts of time in Australia. And the other observation, which those who have spent time with the family will attest to, was the relationship of absolute devotion and love that Shri Mataji had for Sir CP and Sir CP had for Shri Mataji. Some people make all sorts of illusions about their relationship, but again, I share my first-hand experiences that I've never seen a relationship of two people more devoted to each other, of more kindness and of caring and of genuine affection. And their love for each other was something that many of us were in awe of, as an example of almost the perfect marriage. So during those times we became close, and then as this phase developed with the challenges to Shri Mataji's health, we spent again considerably more time with the family in the provision of care. This is quite an important point. From about 2004 onwards, Shri Mataji's health, as everyone will know, was challenged, and situations arose where care, whatever the word physical care meant in relation to the goddess, was needed to assist Shri Mataji. Sir CP, as the husband of Shri Mataji, had 100% authority and protocol to make the determinations around the nature of the care that was to be provided to his wife on any grounds, whether it was legal, spiritual, emotional, from the perspective of the relationship. That was his dharma and that was his position. Some Sahaja Yogis were called to help provide service, and during that time they came under severe criticism from certain quarters who said that we were going against the wishes of Shri Mataji in the provision of assistance and care of a medical nature. Those of us who were in those positions always took the view that the care of Shri Mataji and anything that we did that would help her comfort and help promote good health was something that was in our dharma to do. I saw, and many of us saw, the total dedication that Sir provided to that duty of looking after his wife. So during that time, there was much criticism about certain letters that were written potentially by Circe P that Shri Mataji signed, and the implications that this had for Sahaja. And many people were critical of that intervention that was seen by Circe P, and said that those of us around the family at that time should take a stand against Circe P for Sahaja. And we tried to put the case, which wasn't listened to by many people, was that in the history of humanity, that we human beings have always troubled the deities, the families of the deities of the divine, starting from Christ through Tukaram, Ganeshwara, Muhammad. All the saints, all the avatars were troubled by humanity because humanity could never understand the divine protocols and the divine incarnation. And at this time, through some Maya of Shri Mataji's, humanity was given an opportunity to either follow the same pattern that humanity had followed in the past, where rather than supporting the divine, we were in some position where we could cause some discomfort, or we could be of service. And the two positions were conflicted because some yogis were saying, well, these things that Circe P is doing are wrong and we should criticize him and in some cases attack him. And we were saying, but for us, the greater Dharma and the greater protocol is the service he's providing for the care of our mother. And by firing arrows at Circe P for so-called intervention, we're also firing arrows into the primary person who's looking after our mother for us. And by any medical measures, in our view, was helping to increase the amount of time that the incarnation was on the earth. So we were not conflicted, even though we were heavily criticised. We provided the care that we were asked to provide to help Shri Mataji during that time of her life. Now, some say, and I've read this account often, that the Australians, and media in particular, ingratiated ourselves to Circe P so that we could promote a position for ourselves within the family to the exclusion of other people, and that in some way we were followers or worshippers of Circe P to promote our own positions. I say categorically that this is an opinion and it is false. Why do I say it was false? Because during this time, when care was needed, the call went out to all medical professionals around the world, doctors and nurses, be they senior world leaders who are doctors in England and through Europe and America. And what would happen is they would come for a puja, they would stay for a few days, or they may come during their vacation for a week or two here or there to provide what service they could. But this was not the service that was needed. During this time, 24/7 regime of Sahaja doctors and nurses was needed to be around Shri Mataji. This was the need of the day. And it's not for me to say why, but the call was made and other countries did not answer the call. The Australians did come. Doctors, nurses, carers, people to coordinate, people such as Hari, Kim, Gabby. And it's again not for me to say why and how they did this, but they did it. And they did it because perhaps as people from the land of Sri Ganesha, implicitly in our nature is that we serve our mother to whatever extent that is required, even to the detriment of our own personal circumstances. And you can imagine people were taking leave for large amounts of time, flying back and forward between Italy, India and Australia in that service over a 7-year period. And we seek no recognition of that service. We seek no position from that service. All that we ask is that we are not criticised and our motives questioned, that we were somehow trying to promote ourselves or to worship Circe P. These are basically lies. And I think it's important that this is said.
Certain elements within the collective seek to portray Sir CP as some kind of danger or threat to Sahaja. What was your experience of Sir CP?
This is a falsehood. There's probably no more generous benefactor to Sahaja than Sir CP. Shri Mataji spoke about this often, and this is a point that many yogis tend to ignore because it doesn't fit the particular narrative that they want to create about Sir CP and try to reposition his status within Sahaja to the world. Those people in England at the start of Sahaja know that Sir CP financially supported and as a husband supported Shri Mataji from day one in Sahaja and provided the funds by which Shri Mataji travelled the world to spread Sahaja. This is from the early days of Sahaja, and his support for Shri Mataji and her work is on the public record. It cannot be questioned or undermined. And Kabela was bequeathed to the World Foundation, and Pune Protestant was bequeathed to the National Trust of India. These two gestures on his part, financially at the least, are probably the two most significant bequests to Sahaja that have ever been made. Leave aside the spiritual significance of those two properties to the Sahaj collective. And I'm not sure yogis could imagine a future where they could not go to the castle and meditate and worship their mother, or to Pune Protestant. Yet has anyone thanked Sir CP for this gesture of generosity? Have we acknowledged publicly how this has set Sahaja up for a new future? I've seen nothing that's acknowledged or even thanked Sir CP in some minimal way for these gestures. All I've seen is criticism. I think from a minimum respect, we should acknowledge that his role in Sahaja was never undermining Sahaja. It was never challenging Sahaja, as some would warn that he was a threat to. He supported and loved our mother to a degree that none of us can imagine. And those of us who saw from the first waking moment of the day his concern for Shri Mataji, through the day till the last moment when she went to sleep, only after then would he look after his personal needs. 24 hours, 7 days, month, year after year. For someone to provide that love and support for our mother on our behalf, that the Adi Shakti is loved and cared for, can we not show a little bit of dignity, a minimum of respect, and a minimum of thankfulness to that? Yet yogis feel they can pillar him and defame him and criticize him. I find that situation untenable, and I think many of us feel it's time for us to go on the public record, those of us who saw this, and to say, this is not right, this is not proper, and I fundamentally know, given my experiences of the protocols with Shri Mataji, she would not be pleased that we are treating her husband this way, or treating his memory in this way, where we try and airbrush him out of Sahaj history and create this fictional figure that is now being done.
So in a similar fashion, some seek to have a view and portray their individual views of the family of our Guru.
Many people have opinions and they criticise the family in various ways over various forums publicly, and they promote this particular view that the family are in some way obsessed or concerned with their own needs. This again is totally false. Those of us who've been around the family for any periods of time will tell you that they shared their private time with their mother, with their wife, with their grandmother, with the Sahaj world, without flinching, without questioning, without any lack of magnanimity of spirit. Can any of us imagine that at a certain point in time, your private life becomes public. You walk in your house and you turn around and there are yogis standing there in front of you with their hands out at your dinner table, in your living room, as you go into your car. Every single moment of your life now becomes public, and your time with your beloved mother and beloved wife is now public property. And not only public property, that the yogis can access your family and criticize and have personal views about your family. On this point, it's very clear. Shri Mataji would not tolerate one negative comment or view or intercession by the collective to her family. It was an ironclad Dharma. So the yogis who watch and listen to this talk, please consider that this activity of criticizing the family is fundamentally inauspicious and is promoted by people who have lost their Dharma. So again, I would say we need to show the family respect. No one has ever said that we worship the family. And I challenge anyone to watch this video. Everyone in the world, in their pocket, has a camera, a mobile phone. Please present any image of Arti being done to a photo of the family member, or someone bowing to the family member, or in some Sahaja worship protocol being issued to the family member. It doesn't exist because it's never happened. Yet on these forums, people are happy to promote that people worship the family and have these various views. Please provide the evidence. I know it doesn't exist. So please stop this activity. It's not true, and it's being promoted by people who have an agenda. Don't fall into this agenda.
So, how should Sahaja view the gifting of Kabbalah and Pune Pasta to Sahaja?
I think I've spoken of this already in a previous question, but again, one of the most generous gestures of gifting to our collective, of which I feel, need to go back and revisit and offer some expression of thanks and recognition, because I've never seen anything done to that respect, and I think it's a failing on our part that we've not acknowledged what has happened and been a little bit thankful and a little bit respectful to this gesture that was given.
So some portray those who serve Shri Mataji, and particularly the Australians, as worshippers of Sir CP. How did this come about?
I think I've spoken a little bit about this, and it's a difficult question, because to go into this question would expose views of certain people who, in my view, are politically motivated and have created this fiction that certain people worship Sir CP to try and undermine certain people in the collective. And it comes back to an earlier point about why in Sahaja Yoga are yogis seeking opportunities to criticise and to cause division and to try and put a country down, which is what's been happening with respect to Australia. I think, to me, the line was crossed when this recent note was sent out about the so-called warning of Maha Ganesha Puja. And to read a note sent out by an esteemed body within Sahaja Yoga that's basically putting the proposition that somebody could die by attending a puja to Shri Mataji was a warning bell to me that things are progressing in not a way that Shri Mataji would be happy with. So this sort of activity is fundamentally inauspicious. These things need to be sorted out, if at all, privately, and should never be put in the public. Yet it seems that some people feel that whatever the ends that they're trying to achieve, any means is justified to achieve that end. And I think that is a fundamentally flawed position, because what they fail to realise is when you take to adharmic activity, even if it's to achieve something that you think is dharmic, the conducting of that adharmic activity changes you. You become the adharma that you're doing, despite the good intention that you've had. So it's my opinion, but I think things are not going in a great way.
An ongoing controversy has been the letter by Shri Mataji in the 80s about her medical treatment and the subsequent use of medical treatment after this time. Did Shri Mataji give any indication about the use of medical treatment during this later period?
This is a question many people have asked me about the letter that was written in the 80s and Shri Mataji's express wish not to have medical treatment, and the fact that those doctors and nurses were part of the carers who were involved with that. Yogis know that during that period from about 2004, Shri Mataji spoke. She spoke on public occasions at pujas, it's Guru Puja 2008, Navaratri Puja 2007 in Australia, and she spoke privately in her apartments on many occasions. It wasn't that she was totally silent during this time. And in those 7 years that I was with Shri Mataji and many people were around, she spoke. And I say before this shrine of Shri Mataji here at Nirmal Dham, that not once did she say to me, please do not treat me with medical treatment. I'm not happy with the care I'm being provided. I'm a bhakta of Shri Mataji. I've devoted my life to her. One word from my mother that she was not happy to us or Hari or anyone, and we would have stopped acting differently. It never happened. There was an important meeting that happened, on an occasion I should say, happened 2 weeks before the Mahasamadhi. Happened in the Genoa house. So 2 weeks before the Samadhi, Shri Mataji was talking and she called all the household up to her sitting room in Genoa. And she was speaking to us. Now many of us who had provided the care that I spoke about, it's a time when Shri Mataji could have said, I'm not pleased. You did something that I did not ask for. There were about 20 people in that room who can be a witness to this meeting. Shri Mataji didn't say this. In fact, Shri Mataji said, thank you for looking after me. Thank you for the care you provided. I'm pleased with you. And she gave us gifts. And I have to say, Hari was at that meeting. And Shri Mataji said, and I go on the public record, there is Hari Gaikwad. He's a great yogi. The world needs more yogis like him. So, Shri Mataji could have said, I'm not happy with the medical treatment I had. I'm not happy with the care you provided. I'm not happy that I was taken to puja. But no. She could have spoken about all the issues that people raised about letters and tenure and NIPC and all the controversies that have raged through the Sahaja collective all these years. I've never heard her once speak about these things. So in my view, these are matters immaterial to Shri Mataji. She was focused on her love, her family, the support that she had. So that for me, having Shri Mataji say that she was pleased and happy at that point before the Samadhi, we don't need anything else. We don't need the approval or disapproval or any recognition from the world collective. Because our mother has given us all that we needed. The only reason I'm raising this is because these controversies and this division and these issues that we hoped would subside and continue to be promoted and propagated through the collective is damaging to Sahaja Yoga. And this is why we're speaking. That first-hand accounts of these circumstances can be shared and yogis can come to their own conclusions about whether this is right or wrong, and whether the things I'm saying are truthful and have vibrations or not. But I think these forums have been dominated by one narrative, which is very clear. And those of us you will know who have been around Shri Mataji have not gone to these forums in Facebook and social media or emails to answer all these allegations. Because to answer the allegations gives them credibility that they deserve an answer. They do not deserve an answer. They're untruthful and they're unsahaj. The reason I share this story is that Some people say that Shri Mataji was in some way diminished in this period of time when she was not communicating. This was not my experience at all. Shri Mataji was in a different form. Yes, she wasn't speaking, but the look of the Devi at this time was in many ways more powerful and more life-changing than perhaps prior to that, because her form was different, but her power was undiminished. And as Shri Mataji has said many times, not a leaf stirs in the universe that's not according to her will. So those who feel that in some way Shri Mataji wasn't in control, that she was being manipulated, that somehow the family or other people were controlling things, I think fundamentally fail in their faith that the Adi Shakti cannot be controlled or contained, and that Shri Mataji was in control through this period, and that in a way we're all being tested about where our faith is and where our position is, what our motivations are. I'll just say one final thing is, at some point during these controversies, I was no longer involved in various world bodies, and I then took up a different direction, which was taking to this touring work through the world with Music of Joy and going to countries and spreading Sahaja. And I feel this part of my life has been the most enjoyable, from the sense I felt closer to Shri Mataji and her vision and her work, doing this work, than I felt being involved in these other so-called world bodies, who I think perhaps miss the purpose of if you have a position of authority in Sahaja Yoga, it's not about administration, or it's not about how Sahaja Yoga World is organised. It's all about her love and how we spread her love within our collective and to the world. Because when we fail to do that, we fail in our mission to our mother, and that which would be most pleasing to her. So on that point, I'll say, Jai Shri Mataji, good luck, and may our mother's love be with us all. Jai Shri Mataji.
Jai Shri Mataji. Thank you, Chris.
Tremendous love.
This is the blessing of your own seeking. So the time has come for all of you to become divine. Enjoy yourself, make others enjoy you.